Okay, hi everybody. I write often about not having support system and I can't get my dog to start barking. So that is obviously not a lie. She'll probably calm down in a couple minutes and I want to thank everybody for coming out because I think due to the nature of this talk, my favorite people are going to be in this room and then watching it later. Um, And to that end, I before I get started, I want to follow you. So if you could just hop into the chat and, if you're comfortable, leave your medium name so I can follow you and others can follow you. I really want to build community, and today is all about building community. And I want to follow you. This is what I want to read on Medium. So feel free to hop in the chat and leave your username on Medium. In 2024, I wanted to talk about how everything kind of happens online and protest looks a lot different. I think what the people in this room are doing right now is probably a form of protest. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I read your stories and your stories connect with me. They correct misinformation. They assert boundaries. Your trauma dumps aren't bothering me. They promote empathy in the world. This is a safe place, and I want you to keep sharing, and I want you to overshare, and I want you to share again. And when you share, you're part of this collective pushback. This pushback on those aspects of society that push back on us. They lead us to mask. They lead us to ruminate about our mistakes around them. We numb, we self-destruct. We serve these niche ideals that we're experiencing, usually reserved for academia, like, for example, neuroqueer theory, neurodiversity in general, critical autism studies, which is really the study of what we're doing in real time on Medium. And it's amazing that we're serving this to people that normally wouldn't have eyes on it. And we're doing it in real time, and I need you to keep doing it. So the double empathy problem is another one that we touch on. We ask the readers on Medium every day to change the way the world looks at autism. We do that with our stories. We draw attention to this like baked in ableism in society in a really nice personal way that just one or two activists can't do, like this collective we have going on here. And what I think we're pushing back on is something I touch on a lot in my writing, and I want to sort of help you understand and unpack how it's important that you push back on it. Folkways. So I talk a lot about folkways. They're literally the ways of the folk. So they have a couple different characteristics. They're spontaneous in origin. So they're not, you can't plan a folkway. It's not like when a dictator, makes these rules and then sort of puts them into place. They're this tricky, slippery, annoying rules that we have a hard time putting a finger on, right? They develop through experience. So if we have a hard time with the experience of most of the neurotypicals, what we're doing on Medium, exposing the greater general public to our autistic experiences, is feeding a new folkway, right? That's one way we do it. Folkways are recognized behaviors, which we have a hard time recognizing usually. So there's something everybody sort of knows, and we reject people that don't know them. And we have a hard time at that, right? When we get out on Medium and we tell a story about pain we experience from a sensory issue, or a personal story about feeling rejected by others because we couldn't put a finger on a social undercurrent. These behaviors that we're putting into the algorithm, putting into people's minds, putting in front of people's faces, they're going to become new folkways. Nobody might have ever suggested to someone that eye contact can be uncomfortable for some people, but then they read one article on Medium and then another one and maybe another one, and all of a sudden, it's a new folkway. It's a new, some people don't like that. dad, that's how it happens. There's a couple more characteristics of folkways. They're distinctive. So there's group specific, and here's where it gets a little tricky. They're found between groups. So what I like to do to sort of challenge folkways in that manner is when I would historically apologize for my behavior in a situation, I'll say, well, that's just autistic culture. And most people sort of like stop me at that phrase because they've never heard it. So I try to challenge that folkway every day in normal. I've read a lot about, doctor's office situations, but even, customer service situations, just sort of putting that into the ethos that it's sort of not everyone likes that, the same way that we've accepted other cultures, we've accepted pronouns sort of now. We can definitely ask people to start accepting neurodivergent ideals. And the last characteristic of folkways is that they are hereditary. So this is also really important to me because I think we play a role in helping kids live better than we did. And folkways travel from one generation to the other. So people's attitudes about autism are deeply ingrained and generational. And it takes everybody in this room, everybody watching this recording, it takes people talking about it again and again, and the repeated exposure to new ideals to really have them seep into the culture. So that's why everybody here is really important. So folkways aren't laws of nature. They're social constructs. Just like we're women, men, vegetarians, single mothers, we're disabled, we're queers. We all belong to these social categories, right? They frame our actions, our opportunities. They frame our sense of self. And as people in society, we're expected to know the folkways. I think probably a lot of us in this room, tough job figuring out the folkways, right? We're expected to know them, and people are disappointed when we don't act in accordance to them. What if we can't know them? What if we don't figure them out? What are even the social categories? How are they created? How are they sustained? Who creates them? How do you come to belong in one of them? Do they even really matter? So I was researching this and I wanted to get a similar perspective to mine on it. So I would like to use Icelandic metaphysical feminist Asta's definition. She writes in her 218 book, Categories We Live By, what is it for a feature of me or you to matter socially in context? The answer I give is a feature is socially significant in a context in which people to have the feature get conferred onto them a social status. And now here's where we get a little academic with it, right? These sticky folkways, they're not just annoying. They don't just sort of make it hard to live. They affect our status. When we're not aware of or we can't meet society's expectations, when they don't yield for us, these rigid folkways, we're pretty familiar with what happens, right? Isolation, unemployment, social anxiety, stress, addiction, depression, self-harm, suicide. Because the messages don't just stay out there. Something's happening on the inside. We adopt the message that we're somehow wrong, that there's something fundamentally broken about us, that we're puzzle pieces, that we got to be jammed into society somewhere, and that becomes the story we tell ourselves. That's called your schema. So it becomes, I'm lazy, I'm unreliable, I'm sorry, it's my fault, oh, I'm so careless, and I forgot, I'm late. Does any of this sound familiar? If we want this to change, something has to challenge. So you can be that something. Medium gives us a really, really nice audience, and they're investing heavily in getting the voices of neurodivergent writers out. I've been paying attention today. Everything I hear about the new way Medium's going to curate stories and boost stories, it really, it gives us a great light. AI will not write neuroaffirming content. They just don't, they don't have the source material. Every time I try to use GPT to write something, it tells me that my content is offensive and unprofessional. So, you know, we're the human stories they're looking for. And I want you to get out in front of more eyeballs because I want you to be that something. I really do. I love everyone here. I love all of you. I love all of the neurodivergent creators on Medium. It's so special to me, like in my heart, because just a few years ago, I didn't know I was autistic. She wants to play. So I didn't know I was autistic. I thought I kind of always might have been, but didn't really engage it. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm PDA. That sounds like me, but that's not like a real autistic, right? And then I wasn't quite sure. I felt really uncomfortable claiming the label, but I kept seeing stuff that resonated a lot with me. And then I think what I did next was the online test phase. If you all remember the online test phase, that is when you take every single autism test ever and you go, well, they must be broken. Let me take the next one because I'm not autistic. And then I joined a group, right? And that's where I really found community. I think I joined Christy Forbes' group, and that's a UK-based neurodivergent family support group. And I remember clicking into my first meeting and just having an experience like I'd never had before. Of yes, thank you, love your dog. Yeah, she's wants to play. So I was in community with people that understood me and didn't think I was an alien. And when I said something I got really excited about, they didn't criticize me. It was amazing. I was so happy. I was so seen. And I was going through so much in my personal life. I needed that signal that I'm not alone and I'm not the worst person in the world. There's people like me that are proud of their traits. That was all new to me. And I can't believe now that I'm sitting here just sort of telling you what you can do. And I've come so far. And I kept, I was just so comfortable in that Zoom call, but it was in the UK and I was having a hard time. I remember COVID, nobody was working, so I could go to meetings at 3 a.m. I wanted to do something here in the United States. And I wanted it to start with me because someone like me, like I think it was someone on Facebook, that's where mine started. Someone was brave enough to just talk about their struggles. And I was like, wow, that sounds like my childhood. I had a really similar childhood to some autistic people. That's how it starts. So now I'm writing to you about it, 10 years later. And how many of the new people maybe watching this or like thinking about writing are going to be like, I'm going to be that guy. And then 10 years later, they might be on the Today Show or something, bringing this to an even larger mass audience. We are all important because we don't know who we're going to inspire for the next generation. We're going to change those folkways. So we have a seat at the table and we've got to keep asking society to come recognize us, because it can get bad before it gets better. Everybody is screaming how perfect they are at the top of their lungs right now. We live in a highly narcissistic society. We completely forgot to see any strength and vulnerability. And so it's really important that we show up with all of our vulnerabilities and ask people to not be embarrassed of us and to show them we still feel strong. We just have needs, and that's okay. We really need to saturate the culture with this idea before it's anywhere close to changing a folkway. So when you're not ready, what if you're not ready for eyeballs, right? What if you're like, I'm not ready to write, I'm not ready to share? I think one person came to me a few weeks ago and said, I'm really excited about all my stories. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to read them. Send me your Medium handle. And she just shut down. She said, I'm afraid my therapist saw my work, so I just deleted everything. And that broke my heart. But I totally get it. The fear around publishing and coming out publicly with that, that's trauma. I mean, that's rooted in the fear of not being seen as an autistic child. And that is real. And it can be very, very emotional to express that anger, that fear, that loneliness that you weren't allowed to in childhood. But let me suggest pen names and AI, because you could be whoever you want. You could be like a Fabio guy or like a Boop girl. You don't need to be you. You can have a fun pen name. You could be 2 or 3 different people to express your different needs. Have fun with it. You don't need to put yourself out there to put your ideals out there. And let me tell you a story about why this is really important. The other day, it was, I think this week, my son called me from group therapy. He told me his best friend was having a crisis. He said his friend felt like his mom didn't love him. He wanted my advice on how to help him. So I suggested a bunch of things, and among them, I suggested was to think back to a time where you felt similar. And he said to me, Mom, I know that wouldn't work because I know you love me, and I always know you love me. And like, I died. I was so proud. I never remember a time growing up that I felt that my mother loved me. I would ask her if she loved me, and she'd say, I have to like you, or I have to love you, but I don't have to like you, which like isn't an answer. It's not a yes. So, my son knows I love him. Like, I'm done. I did it. I don't have to do anything else. I changed things, like, viscerally. He can't even imagine a world where I don't love him. All the scary things I did, all the putting myself out there, all the trying to change patterns and get away from people who don't accept me for who I am, paid off. But that's one kid, and there's so many other kids out there that know their moms don't love them. They can't act the way their moms expect. And they need to find you online. They need to know they're not broken. You need to move past that sensation of fear if you can, so that you can share and be seen and provide a safe place for those kids who don't have one. It's really important. Here's another thing I learned in my time peer counseling. Remember that story about my son? He stepped out of a room full of trained, licensed professional therapists to ask me a question. And that is not unique. I keep trying to hook my clients up with services. They don't want services. They want me to help them. They're done with the mental health care profession. They want peer support. They have trauma from mental health care. They still want help. They want to feel better. They want advice. They want your advice. Support and therapy doesn't have to look traditional. It can look like seeking out groups or Medium creators or Instagram creators, or wherever you like, that speak to you and help you with your struggles. So if you're hesitating to share, consider just somebody somewhere might need to hear it, whatever it is. Exactly only the way you can tell it. Because the people out here only have our experiences and viewpoints that are out here doing it. But you never know. You never know what story you have that's going to change 15 more lives. So do it. Just do it. Get in front of more eyeballs. Do it. So I'm done pep talking. I'm going to do a quick run through of what we're doing on Medium. Because I think something I run into, there's so many articles about writing. And you might be like, I want to share my stories, but I don't know how to do SEO. And I don't want to post 3 times a week. And social media seems hard. No, you're not. No. First of all the advice is probably outdated because AI, right? Second of all, we're here to change folkways. So we're going to do this the way we're going to do it. You do it however it works for you. Share with whatever schedule you want to. That being said, there's a couple general ideals you should probably stick to. And I think I've simplified it down to a couple points. Medium does a lot of really heavy lifting to get us in front of eyeballs. They do a lot of behind the scenes marketing. So I think if you just show up and you, number one, write for your audience, which means don't worry about it. Don't worry about researching SEO and what's popular right now. If you have something that comes up in your life again and again, somebody else is probably going to have it come up in their life again and again. If you're interested in something, they're probably interested in something. If you're challenged by something, they're probably challenged by something. So if your target audience is indeed, other autistic adults, then you're going to be, just stay on track. Just stay on track and stay relevant to that. And don't worry about it. You're going to solve a problem they have. So number two is create valuable content, right? I think today has been about that all day. I'm not going to keep driving that home. But there's, the internet is a flaming garbage pile of content, and there's so much of it. And there's about to be so much more because of these bots. So don't rewrite stories that already exist. Rewrite something so weird you don't think anyone cares about it, because that's going to be your diamond. That's going to be what you need to mine. Your story is probably going to be hilarious. It's going to be unique. It's going to be yours. Don't worry about putting out loads of content. Just put out one gem, however often you need to, however often the dopamine hits, right? Engage and collaborate is my next tip. So connect with other bloggers. You're showing up here, you're doing talks like this. I encourage you to follow each other. You can, again, if you didn't hear it in the beginning, leave your usernames in the comments because I really want to follow you. Use social media. So that can also go with listening and engaging your audience on Medium. You can listen and engage an audience outside of Medium. You can leverage those platforms to sort of traffic eyeballs back to your stories, and you can engage with them directly and sort of get some of your ideas beyond the paywall of Medium and then lure them in so they can get more of them and read the entire article. And again, my last point, it's a common theme, be authentic. Go out there and don't mask in your writing. I love Dr. Nick Walker, and she calls herself flamingly autistic. I love that. Like, do the scary things, say the mean things. That's the title of this talk. Start that fight. Start that fire. Put it in your title. Put it right in your title. Don't make the end of your article your big, jazzy, pithy conclusion. Put the punch right in your title. Draw people in. Be as weird as you want to. Be the weirdest weird you can. Make people sit with how you feel. Ask them to consider that double empathy problem. Ask them to consider all the times society's hurt your feelings. It's okay to be unlikable. It's okay to not be everybody's flavor. That will help you find your people. And you want to write to your people, right? That was the first rule. So find your people, write to your people. And finally, I don't want you to get too excited about this one. Measure and adjust. Like, there's plenty of data nerds. Data nerds are so beautiful. Like, I love them in the world. They make so many gorgeous charts. But if you're not one of them, Medium sends you a stats for your stories email once a week. All you got to do, open up that email, go, take note in your brain. My readers really like this subject matter. Maybe keep a little list. And then draw from those subject matters that do really well from you. And then keep building on that. You build expertise that way too. And so now that you have these suggestions, I really want to invite you to not follow any of them. Don't follow a single one if you want. Because coming back to the beginning, I want people to stop expecting professional behavior, right? Dress how you want, talk how you want. It's your tone. Post once a month, post once a week, post 4 times a week. It's fine. You are fine. I don't want you to stress out about this. This is for you. And then when you don't stress, you're going to write your best work. You're going to hit all those micro niche marketing points. You're going to draw people in. You're going to have the energy to transmute your thoughts and your energy and your feelings to the reader. And that's what Medium's looking for. And you're going to do really well with just sticking to yourself and being yourself really strongly. I am doing well on Medium. I did not post for 2 solid months. 2 solid months. I had a flare of everything. I was so sick. I couldn't take it anymore. And it was super scary. I'm a type A personality. I have a very judgmental mother. I took time for myself to get better. And it was anxiety producing. But you know what? It was fine. And I would have normally given up on Medium. I would have been like, well, that was nice. Good run. But I'm embarrassed to come back. Didn't post for 2 months. But I'm back and I'm doing really, really well. And I actually didn't lose any audience during that time. I don't even know if anyone noticed. See, I'm going to stop talking because I really, really, really want to take questions. But little pep talk at the end. You get one life, right? You can sit here and take shit from people your whole life, or you can just live the lifeiest life you can live out of that life and make it extra lifey. And I'm asking you to write your lifeiest, because I think it's a really good time to do it. The world is ready. Everyone's complaining about the neurodivergent movement. That means we made it. They hate us. We made it. Let's keep showing up so they can hate us more. And soon it'll be mainstream. So I'm done blabbing. And I'd like to pop... Oh, nothing in the Q&A. So I'm going to go into the chat. And I'm going to invite you to drop some questions. And only one... Oh, let's see. We got a couple of people. I'm going to give shout outs in the room. We got Interconnected Moment. So follow at Interconnected Moments. We've also got at Plain Talk Bad Manners. I love that. I love your name. Plain Talk Bad Manners. And at Amanda, I'm gonna butcher your name. Okay, Amanda Korishi? Amanda Korishi. And I apologize profusely if I pronounced that incorrectly. And then we've got Thinks She's at Susie Miller. You got to follow Thinks She's at Susie Miller. And maybe you should just search her name, because she's not 100% sure about that. So I'm going to answer. I have one question in here. Shout out to Maria Guardia, Maria Alfonso at Medium. We're going to follow her as well. I've got a question in the chat. What's your greatest joy? And I'm going to answer that in a very, very PDA manner. I don't pick favorites. I have a hard time picking favorites. I mine dopamine from a million things, and my greatest joy will probably change from moment to moment because I don't like picking favorites. I think we've got to just pursue greatest joys every day and make life art, and probably changes on different levels from day to day. All right, so we've got 2 more minutes. Do we have anybody else who wants their name shouted out or has a question? Drop it in the chat. Going, gone. 1 minute ticked away. All right, I want to ask you guys to follow each other. If you join a team, Yep. Oh, okay. So that's great. I have a question in the chat about managing neurodiversity. So we are not a monolith. I would say when you're hiring a neurodiverse workforce, you're probably going to want to implement, like if it was me, I would implement structures, like probably a Google questionnaire, or just, oh, that's okay. probably a Google questionnaire or something really simple that can sort of give you an idea of what your new hire needs, right? So if I were nonverbal, I might want someone to welcome me in a way that would let me communicate back using alternative communication. Or if I were extremely shy, I would actually say, like, you know, this employee doesn't love being greeted aggressively, and don't feel rude if they don't say anything back. I would implement structures in the hiring and HR process that would allow for customization of almost every aspect of interaction with individuals that need support. And on that note, it's 6:30. I will, if anyone is interested in assistance managing a co-parenting situation with a tricky personality, I'll be back at 7 p.m. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to follow you all. Thank you.